Ministry Centre. As a local church pastor, I just want to testify that I have been won over a period of about 17 years to playtime ministry. Yvette just asked me to share something very briefly, a couple of minutes, from the point of view of a local church pastor about how I see this particular ministry that I know you're all inspired and motivated about, but sometimes you pastors and the churches you're part of don't see it the same way. We have, Leanne and I have 4 kids. They range in age from 17 down to 8. And so that's why we've had this opportunity to be part of playtime ministry for quite a while. I think, Leanne, how long did you do it for?
Oh, about 10 years.
Yeah, about 10 years. So quite a span of time. As a pastor, this is our 17th year here. We weren't always at this site. We were at another site. It was a good church building, but rather dilapidated building. And so it was good for me as a pastor to come in and we had one 6-month-old then, but I didn't have that much experience with kids, and I would just see playtime happening, and it was quite a dusty old hall out the back, and there weren't many people there. It seemed to be limping along, and so I saw it there, and then we started having kids ourselves, and I realised what a turbulent time of life it is to have kids. And so for me as a parent, there's nothing like, I don't think, holding your baby and you're trying to take a temperature and the temperature's getting up towards 40. And you are normally pretty in control of your life, and then all of a sudden, wow, this is so scary. And that child gets a bit older, and it doesn't matter if they're 3 years old and the temperature's getting near 40. It's just, it's in my mind of, oh wow, do we go to the hospital, what do we do? Or like when you go in there with your 3-year-old and you're holding their hand as the mask goes on their face and they're counting to 10 going off into an operation. And it's awkward, it's scary. It is a scary time of life when suddenly you realise we are responsible for these kids.
Yes.
We're mum and dad. And so journeying through that ourselves has given Leanne and I so much more of an appreciation for the volatile season of life that you're in when you have young kids. Throw into that mix jobs that get lost, mortgage problems, financial, marital issues. I don't need to go into it all, but it's so volatile. And so I've just watched it and experienced it myself, and then Leanne being involved in the ministry. Wow, this is a unique opportunity to minister to people where the rug is getting pulled out from under them in their life. That's what I've noticed. When we came down here, we sold our church up there. We came down this big vision. We grabbed this factory and we worked hard and we turned it into a ministry centre. Within a few years, came here in about 2000. We opened up the end of 2000 and beginning of 2002. Within a few years, we were literally running ministries here from 6 in the morning, Boxer size, all the way through to 11 o'clock at night. We had sports centres running out the back, all sorts of things going on, work in the local community. I was sitting here reflecting on the last 17 years of ministry and actually coming into a church that's busier than a lot of churches. And I just want to testify, playtime ministry is the most effective evangelistic ministry when I look back on our experience of all of those ministries. And we've done a lot of them. And when I reflect on it, I think it's because of the unique opportunity to minister to people at their point of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And when I reflect on it too, we weren't that effective in the early days because we just didn't have this, we didn't do it so well. When we came down here, we started to believe in it, we built this stuff and we made a good space, we resourced the people with the passion. And we actually decided, it was a big thing for us as a church, we're going to get the money together and pay someone to do it. And then that grew over time to, we paid 3 people now. And I laugh when the guru of playtime, sorry, we call it playgroup, but of playtime's Yvette, she's number 3 on our staff. And it was such a thrill when I said, Yvette, would you come work? Yeah, I'd love to. And so that's where we're at. We really believe in this playtime ministry. And we have found that for it to be effective, you've got to resource the people who have the vision. And that doesn't mean that they're paid, but your local pastor has to be behind you. And we need to be getting all sorts of... I think that what I've found is that you can do it well or you can do it not so well. And when it's done well, it's fantastic. And so can I just encourage you to, if you're having a hard time maybe in your local church because your pastor's not on board, I'd love to talk to him just to give some thoughts from our perspective, and that might be helpful. We were talking away, Yvette and I, and she said, you know what, you should ask Leanna to just give one of the stories of practical help, because that's what we find. It's helping people practically, and then in the midst of that we get to share the gospel. So this is my wife Leanne, and I think she's going to tell you about some of, at least one of the stories. Thanks very much.
Thank you. It's great to be back at Playgroup and to have a conference. In the early days when I was involved in Playgroup, we used to have a really small little group that would sometimes meet together, and so to have a big bunch of people all with the same passion for Playgroup is really exciting, because it's a really unique opportunity to minister to families in the local area. So Yvette asked me just to share one story, and the first story that came to my mind was a story a bit about lasagna, actually. After a little while, when we'd been running Playgroup, we started to see that we needed to do more than just meet each week. We were making great inroads and great relationships with people, but it seemed as though that's where it ended. So at one point in time, we just decided, okay, let's brainstorm about what we can do. And it was a very simple thing. In church circles, we're all very used to making meals for friends if they're sick or anything like that. So we decided now's the time to start making meals for people when they need it in crisis, when they're sick, when they have family tragedy, and when they have a baby. So this one day, a family from Playgroup had a new baby. It was the third baby, and she'd been coming along to Playgroup for a little while, and it was my turn to cook. So I cooked a lasagna and made a salad and rang her up out of the blue. She wasn't expecting it. It wasn't something that we actually told our ladies that we were going to start doing. And I turned up on the doorstep with a lasagna that was warm from the oven and a salad, and I got to meet the new baby and have a little play with the two little kids and just share for 10 minutes just about how she went. And I thought that was all it was. So she was back at Playgroup a few weeks later, and she was very thankful, of course, for the meal, and surprised that somebody would go to the effort of, making a lasagna. And that's all it was. And I thought, that's it. So she kept coming along to Playgroup, and then eventually what happens is that the older kids go to school, and so Playgroup is not, in their season of life anymore. So a couple of years after that, a friend of ours moved in across the road from Fiona and from Peter. And they just got to talk. She actually had another baby, and they had children, and they would just chat across the road and started to build a relationship. And then Kat, my friend who is from this church who'd moved in, started sharing the gospel and just saying that she was a Christian and that she was, involved in all sorts of things. And the first thing Fiona said to her was, about 3 years ago I had a brand new baby, and Leanne, the one who ran Playgroup, came over one day and she had a lasagna and a salad, and I had never had a meal cooked for me before. And I could not believe that she cooked us a lasagna. And again, that's all it was. It was just part of the conversation. They got to talk, and then they worked out that she was coming to Caringbah Baptist, and Kat, who was the neighbour, was coming here as well. And that just gave her an inroad in that it was a positive experience that Fiona had at Playgroup. We didn't actually get to the point, me personally, of sharing the gospel with her, but Kat did. And I think that lasagna broke down some walls where suddenly she just went, you know what, this Playgroup's not just about Playgroup, they actually care about me. And I think that it just speaks of faith, hope and love. And that's what we did. We shared that with her. Again, funnily enough, another sort of 12 months later, I ran into Fiona myself and her husband and these 4 little kids by then at the supermarket. And her husband, Peter, went, this is years later, this is probably 4 or 5 years later, he goes, Leanne, I cannot believe that day you came to my house and made that recipe. And I'm there going, oh, no, actually in the midst of that day, I've got 4 kids myself. It was crazy, and it was a bit hard actually to get it there and deliver it and spend the time. And I want to testify that I don't have a gift of evangelism. So in my ministry at Playgroup, at times I felt like, what am I doing? I'm not seeing a whole bunch of people saved. Yvette's got a gift of evangelism and she is able to have those conversations. I have a gift of hospitality. And what I've reflected on is that God uses us as the leaders and the coordinators of Playgroup, where our giftedness lies, to be part of the journey, someone's faith journey. So for me, my gift of hospitality was cooking a lasagna. Years later, that was one of the things that for Peter and for Fiona, they just went, they actually really cared about us, that church. They didn't just talk. And I don't know where they're at now with their faith, but I just believe that those little things that seem so insignificant actually become part of a bigger picture where people see Jesus in the way we serve them and love them. Yes. That's my story about lasagna.
Thank you.